เรื่องราวความรักความเทิดทูนของประสบนิกรชาวไทยต่อพระบาทสมเด็จพระปรมินทรมหาภูมิพลอดุลยเดชเป็นที่รับรู้กันดีในหัวใจของคนไทยนะคะสำหรับคนต่างชาติเวลามองมาที่ประเทศไทยก็อาจจะมีความรู้สึกสงสัยหรือว่าเป็นคำถามว่าทำไมคนไทยถึงรู้สึกรักในหลวงแต่สำหรับคนต่างชาติบางคนสงสัยแล้วไม่ได้สงสัยเพียงอย่างเดียวศึกษาหาความรู้เก็บข้อมูลจนเรียบเรียงออกมาเป็นหนังสือนะคะชาวต่างชาติที่ว่านี้ก็คือศาสตราจารย์แมนเฟรด คราเมสเป็นชาวเยอรมันที่มาอาศัยอยู่ในประเทศไทยในระยะเวลาหนึ่งพร้อมๆกับการตั้งคำถามว่าทำไมคนไทยถึงรักในหลวงและได้เขียนหนังสือออกมาหนังสือที่ว่านี้ก็คือเรียนรู้จากพระเจ้าอยู่หัวและวันนี้ศาสตราจารย์คราเมสอยู่กับดิฉันแล้วนะคะ Thank you very much for joining me
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ And you also bring the books that you wrote for a long time ago.
Yes.
Can you just tell me your encapsulation of the book Learning from Our Late King?
คือทำงานเชียงใหม่6 ปี I was working in Chiang Mai for 6 years and I was doing research and counseling for a big spa.It was very famous with foreigners, and I was a specialist for Ayurveda, which is called in Sanskrit Ayurveda, the Indian medicine. I have studied traditional Chinese and traditional Indian medicine, and my specialty is psychology.Means psychosomatic disorders like insomnia, when people cannot sleep, or depression, or anxiety, or things like that. So I was teaching that to the people in Chiang Mai. And one day I was walking outside of my apartment on the Hue Keo Road, the big road in Chiang Mai, and while I was walking, I suddenly noticed a huge picture of the late king. I don't know,
along the road.
Yes, bigger than the house, a huge poster of the king. So I thought, wow, this is so big. And I just looked at his face, and something very strange happened. He started talking to me.And I looked in his eyes and said, hey, what do you want to tell me? And again, he was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't get the message. So this is very strange. And I went to the bookstore, B2S, and without any intention, I just saw they had a special book on sale about the king, In His Majesty's Footstep, by a famous Thai security guy who was security for the king for more than 30 years. So I bought the book. It was written in English. And I took the book home and I started reading, and suddenly it made click. I said, wow, now I understand what the king was trying to tell me.
One sentence you said, you feel very sad when Thai people said they love the late king. Why do you feel very sad?
I was collecting information that showed me His Majesty was trying very hard to educate and to guide the people of Thailand. To give you an example, on every birthday he gave a public speech on TV, you know that. And he took that very serious, you know. He prepared that for weeks and weeks in advance to address the nation and to show himself on TV. He didn't have to do that. I mean, like everybody in the world, I'm sure he has a right to enjoy his birthday and to stay at home and celebrate with his family or whatever. But no, he decided that even on his birthday, he would rather give something to other people. So he prepared these speeches, and I was watching the Thai people looking at him on TV, and I realized that people were so overwhelmed, so much absorbed by adoring him and glorifying him. They didn't even listen to what he was telling. So I talked to Thai people, and I realized that the king of Thailand is not supposed or is not understood as a teacher, but rather, well, it sounds a bit impolite, but as an object of worshipping, almost like a Buddha. Okay. And then I understood there is a gap between what he tries to do and what the people understand. And as long as the people do not realize that he wants them to change or to improve their life, the message will be blocked. You know, if you, the same happened about Buddhism, you know. Lord Buddha is not a god. He never said he is a god. He is a teacher, okay? And one of his last sermons, he was already past 80 years. The last teaching, he said to his monks, he said, after me there will be nobody. He said, do not worship me. Don't make a cult out of my personality. My teaching will be your guide. After that, he addressed some monks and he passed away. So that was the last teaching. So the last teaching of the Buddha was, don't worship me. But look what the Thai people are doing. When Thai people have a problem, big problem, they go to temple, they ask the monk to do some puja or some prayer or whatever, and the people pay some money to him, and they hope that the luck will change and the problem is solved. But that is not the teaching of Buddha. That is, and I saw that this happening again with the king, who again, like a Buddha, became an object of worshipping and prizing rather than a teacher.
So that's why you feel sad from the eyes
Yes.
of
Yes.
a Westerner
Yes.
looking into Thailand. So
Yes.
you see the combination between the king as a great teacher
Yes.
and Buddhism.
Yes.
And what do you think that Thai people should learn more from this great combination?
I need to understand why Thai people are like that, because nobody is nobody is educated in a certain way like the Thai people. For example, if King Bhumipol had been a king or a teacher in Germany or in Switzerland, he would have been regarded as a man of great wisdom and great leadership. The people would have respected him, perhaps even more than the Thais, but from a different reason, for a different reason. And that is the education. And in Thailand, the people are taught from early age to worship the Buddha, to worship the king, to worship the country. These are the three pillars of education, actually. But they are not trained. They are not trained to take advantage of the knowledge in a practical way.
Do you mean worshipping is wrong, or should people take extra action in addition to worshipping?
Worshipping alone does not lead to anything, and you become depending on something, on a higher power or some influence, and it's not what the king wanted to be. You see, we have to ask one question: did the king himself wanted to be worshipped? And the clear answer I get is no. In fact, he had been born in the States, you know that. He got his entire education in Switzerland. He went to very good schools in Lausanne. When he came to Thailand, he spoke English, he spoke French, he spoke German, Italian, a little Thai, okay. So he had a completely Western education. And he was not the type of person who demanded or who was expecting other people to prize him, to adore him, to worship him. He didn't want that. But he accepted it because it was the nature of the Thai people. He didn't also go against it. So he said, well, if that is all the Thai people want to do, so be it. But it didn't make him happy because he wanted to do more things. But he could not achieve that because the people's mind was conditioned through a very unusual education that is typical for Thailand, and to program people, to condition people in a certain way so they become good citizens in a way, but not critical people, not people who know how to read between the lines, not people who are self-confident or independent in their thinking. And because of that education, the people were unable to consider the king as a teacher, and they were unable to grasp the information between the lines.
From German perspective, because you
Yes.
are looking in Thailand, from your education, from
Yes.
your experience in life, what do you yourself do to bring or to apply his wisdom, his intellect of the late king into your life? And that can be lesson
Okay.
learned for the Thai people.
I'd give you one example for that. In one of the books about the king, I read that it was about 45 years ago in the palace, I think it was in Hua Hin. One day the king was upset because he saw that the servants were throwing away food, leftover food. And he talked to them and he said, it's not good to waste food. We must not waste even one grain of rice. We can feed it to the chicken, and we can give it to the dogs or to the pigs, whatever, but don't throw away food. And when I was reading that, I was very astonished. I thought, this is exactly like my parents taught me, and my grandparents, because when my generation was brought up in the same way, we were not allowed to waste food. And even my mother, she was like that, you know, when we had bread left over, which was hard, she rather put it into the soup so it becomes soft and we can eat it again. She would not throw away a small piece of bread. And I thought this is very wise, that the king instructed all the palace staff to be careful about food, and we must not throw away even small amount.
That's his idea of self-sufficient,
In a way.
economy.
But on the contrary, if you look at the Thai people, how they order food in restaurants, they order mountains of food on their plate, and you can see they return half sometimes, and that's very bad, you know. So I was thinking to myself, why the Thai people have such a wise leader, such a brilliant philosophy behind just being a king, and why do not follow his example? And that made me very sad. And there was another case when it was about even 5 years ago, the king planned a trip to one of the northern provinces. And his staff had organized the trip with an airplane. Everything was ready. The airplane was ready, and the king said, no, if I go by airplane, I will waste a lot of kerosene. And how can I waste so much kerosene in the wake of the oil crisis which was going on? It was in the 1970s. And he said, we should go by train. Train is slower than the airplane, but it absorbs less fuel. The security was worried. They said, oh, this is very dangerous. Train can take more than 8 hours. and it's also security-wise, it's not very good. We better go by airplane. But the king said, no. Now we have an oil crisis, and my own people sometimes cannot afford to fill up the tank of their car, and I feel it irresponsible to use an airplane. So he ordered them to prepare a train trip. Wanted to give an example to the nation that it's better to save, to be economic. So why his economical way of life is not being adopted? Now I'm asking you, if you ask any Thai person in this country to buy milk from 7-Eleven or something like that, they use a motorbike, even if the shop is around the corner, because nobody likes to walk. So here we have the king with all his brilliant philosophy, his wisdom, his almost Buddhist concept of how to live in an economical way. And there's a gap between him, his way of life, and how the people are living. And that is why I put the question to the Thai people. I want to know from the Thai people, if you really dearly love your king so much, if you respect him so much, why don't you follow his example?
Okay, that brings us back to the very beginning
Yes.
of why do you feel so
Yes.
sad when you heard the Thai said they love king or we love king.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Professor Krames, for
So-
joining me. เป็นมุมมองจากศาสตราจารย์แมนเฟรดคราเมสนะคะในฐานะเป็นผู้ที่เรียบเรียงบันทึกหนังสือออกมาเรื่องราวการเรียนรู้จากพระเจ้าอยู่หัว มุมมองจากศาสตราจารย์ชาวเยอรมันที่มองมายังประเทศไทย ความรักความเทิดทูนของคนไทยต่อพระบาทสมเด็จพระปรมินทรมหาภูมิพลอดุลยเดชซึ่งอาจารย์ก็ระบุว่าอยากจะให้คนไทยนำไปปฏิบัติให้เกิดขึ้นได้จริงๆในชีวิตจริงค่ะทั้งหมดคือแสงจากพ่อสำหรับคืนนี้ค่ะดิฉันณัฐฐา โกมลวาทินสวัสดีค่ะ